potentially we're going to have to title this something else. Maybe I'm going to have to title this Kaz versus Technology, or iPhone versus Kaz. Tried something, tried turning off Do Not Disturb. See if that works. See if we can get her in. Because I just think for a lot of people, it's a topic that people really want to speak about. And we've been speaking a lot about how to get into property and different strategies. And this is one that I know a lot of people are hoping that they could learn from. So hopefully Stephanie is able to get in. I'm going to send her a second message as well. In the meantime, just in case we don't, I think we're now fully booked for season 3. We've got 2 more guests left. Of course, they're all going to be amazing guests. But whilst we wait to see if Stephanie can join, if anybody has any ideas about people they want to get in for season 4, feel free to drop me a message and let me know who you want to see. This is so weird. I feel like I need a technical assistant for things like this, because it's just a lot of pressure. I'm already here talking to myself because I'm running late in a car, you know, on a side road under a lamppost to try and maximize the lighting. Yeah, I've tried opening the app. I've tried closing it. I can see requests. Yeah, I think unfortunately.
Boom!
Hello. Hello.
We're on.
Finally, we're on, we're live, we're connected.
I love it.
Exactly. So
Brilliant.
I'm just going to start from here. I did like 5 intros already before you joined. They've all been deleted. They've gone in the bin because we've now got it and we're now going to make it happen. And we are going to talk rent to rent. So as always, this is season 3, episode 10 of Ask Somebody Else, a mini podcast that we do on Instagram Live, where each and every week I engage with a different industry expert, where we get the opportunities to ask them some great questions around a specific topic. Now, today's topic is going to be my host / my guest, who recently I worked with alongside the Property Insiders, did an amazing job of delivering that project for us. And the first episode is actually out tonight, you know, on YouTube at 8 p.m. So whoa, check that out if you haven't already. It'll be out tonight. I think there'll be a nice trailer. You'll be able to discuss and talk to other people. But I wanted to get you on today to really talk rent to rent, because it's one of the most popular questions that I get asked, in terms of what is it? How does it work? Is it illegal? What are the pros and cons? How does it work in the current markets? There's going to be so many questions. So for those of you that do have questions, please make sure to use the question box. Everybody can get good value out of this. But to start, Stephanie, if we can hear a little bit about you.
Yeah, hey Kaz, it's great to be with you. And just as an aside, Property Insiders was epic. As soon as I first saw that trailer, I was just like, oh, it just makes you feel so proud. And I was delighted to have the chance to be part of it. But who am I? Stephanie Taylor. In the last, I was always somebody who thought business, property investment, all of that stuff was for other people. And then in the last 5 years with my sister Nikki, we've become property investors. We've got a multi-million-pound portfolio. We're co-founders of HMO Heaven, which is our rent-to-rent business. It's an award-winning HMO property management business. And we're co-founders of Rent-to-Rent Success, where we help people get started in rent-to-rent, i.e. get started in property with little money using that strategy. And we've inspired hundreds of people to get started. And since my life has blown up over 40 and I'm doing things that I didn't think I could imagine before, I also run Blow Up Your Life, which helps women over 40 to blow up their lives and take things to the next level.
That's amazing. I think stories like yours, particularly because was one of the reasons why we love the idea of Property Insiders, just because everybody's journey is different, and sometimes it is that, you know, that investment in property, or, you know, dipping your toe in the water in the property space, that does take that person from being an outsider to an insider in the space, which is amazing. And I think just to show that, you know, journeys can start really young. They can start whenever. They can start when you least expect them. But they really start with action, and you believe in that you can, you know, make a change and make a difference, which I think a lot of what you do in your space has shown is possible, which I think is amazing. Out of all of the things you've touched on, I think where I'd like to start is rent-to-rent success. So how did you, obviously, so rent-to-rent success is your, you know, your rent-to-rent and property management business. Like, what made you first start that, and how did you find it?
Yeah, it was just one of them moments in life where it's like sliding doors and your life takes a totally different direction. And I was working at a bank, and like many people, 9 to 5. I actually felt like I'd landed on my feet because I've been through every different kind of financial situation. Like when I was very young, I had my son Alex when I was 18, and that was a time where I was actually counting the pennies. I used to queue up at the post office, collect income support in cash. Everything was in cash in them days, every fortnight, £98.40. And I used to live from penny to penny and actually manage my money like that on a weekly basis. And then to go from there to actually finding on my feet with a professional job, and going over the years, working part-time, building myself up, doing degrees and stuff like that. And eventually I come to this point 6 years ago when I was working at a bank, and I was doing contracting, and I literally could not believe it, because when you do an admin job, you're getting paid a low-ish salary. And for the same job, but under the sphere of project management in financial service, you get paid hundreds of pounds every day, where instead of hundreds of pounds every week. And so I'd come into this realm, and I was doing that work, and I would have probably continued on with that until I retired. But it was one of them everyday moments that my mum called me. One morning, she was just feeling a little bit needing reassurance, and she'd been ill at the time, and I was very quick to try and get her off the phone and get to work. And I was thinking ahead to my presentation at work and all the things I was doing, and why I was telling myself I haven't even got time to have this conversation. And so I was then sitting at work in the afternoon. I was working in Bristol at the time, and I was patting myself on the back, basically thinking to myself, oh, Stephanie, you know what? You killed it this morning. You was really good. I'd been really worried about this presentation, and it just came into my head, oh, but what about Mom? And then I started picturing her, you know, open her eyes in bed, just suddenly needing to reach out to get some reassurance or to feel the love or whatever. That's the reason why she was calling me. And I wasn't there for her. And not only that, I thought, what about in the future if she gets sicker, and I want to be flexible to be able to be with her, or even if she doesn't get sick and I just want to spend more time with her. And it just really, it kind of hit me like I'd only just realised it. And I thought, well, how do people do it? How do people not work 9 to 5 and still meet all their living costs and so on? And I know these sound like ridiculous questions, but I really was thinking, oh, maybe, I think it's something to do with business. I could see that people can do this through business, but I couldn't see myself as a business person. I thought there was all this wall of information that I just couldn't get beyond. But I did think that maybe property is a way, because I could see that normal people could go into property and kind of accidentally make money. And every single person in the UK knows somebody who, in inverted commas, accidentally made money just by buying a house and living in it, and to start off with. And I thought, oh, if I do that intentionally, maybe I can do that. And maybe that would be the way. And it really gave me the determination. That punch in the belly, it was like a fire. It started up this fire burning, and I thought it got me over all the fear, because I was still scared. I was still worried. I still thought maybe couldn't I do it. But I knew that now was my time. And, you know, at the age of 45 at the time, I thought, I haven't got time to wait. I can't wait. I have to do this now. And that's what started it off.
That's I think, you know, I was trying to pick up bits that I wanted to respond to, but you said so much that I'm like, well, I think, look, you know, everybody has a lot of the time that catalyst that's like, this is the spark, this is what started it, and then this is what enabled me to, whether it's like you said, the fire or the inspiration to move forward. And I think, but like you looked at it almost like, okay, well, that was obvious. I had to do it. For a lot of people, they have that moment that's like, you know, oh, this is like, you know, this is like a big deal, and that big deal can send them in the other direction where they just say, I can't manage this anymore. So I think, you know, we always got to pat ourselves on the back when we do take these moments and take them as inspiration as opposed to taking them as a negative. And I think that often sort of speaks to our outlooks on life and how we see things. And I think you could see that from the earlier part of your story, when even you spoke about, you know, obviously like having your son at a younger age, and, you know, going from one situation to a better situation, but not taking the better as, oh, I've made it. It's always a case of looking at what can we do next and how can we elevate to move forward, because, you know, a step forward is just that. It's not the final destination, which I think is why obviously everything you've done has done obviously really successful. So I commend you for that. So then you decided, okay, property, that was it. You said, I've seen people that make money from property. If some people do it accidentally, if I attack property with a purpose, I can make some money in property. And how versed were you in rent to rent at this stage? Like, how much did you know about, how did you even find out about rent to rent?
Yeah, so what I did, Kazi, I had this idea in my head, oh, maybe property is the way. I didn't have a lot of money to start off with. And I just thought, but I was solvent, you know, and I just thought, oh, there's all these property events. So I was in Bristol at the time, so I started, they're, you know, PPN, PIN, all these independent property events, and I started going to the property events, and I was blown away. You know, you speak to anybody who's new to the property events, they're just blown away by what's possible, because, you know, most people just think you save up 50 grand or more to buy a buy-to-let, you make a few £100 every month, and you build it up, and over time, it works for you. But then you come into this property world and it's like you open the door to an Aladdin's cave. There's all these different strategies. There's some stuff you can do that obviously does take a lot of money, but you can use other people's money. And there's stuff you can do with not a lot of money. So when I heard about rent to rent, I thought, that is it. Boom. That is the one, because they were talking, these two guys, what are they called now? Justin and, it's just gone out of my head, just a second, but they were talking at this event at PPN at Bristol, and I just watched the screens, and they were explaining, first of all, they painted themselves as ordinary guys. I suppose everyone is an ordinary person, but, you know, in my mind, when I'm at these events, I'm picturing these people as like these amazing, amazing people, not the same as me, but they kind of painted the picture, and I could see a lot of similarities. And they made me feel like, you know, if they could do it, I could do it. But they had this big screen there and had all these properties going across the screen. And they said, we didn't buy any of these properties. We were just managing them. And we made so much money, you know, 84,000, 72,000, 50,000 over the contract of each property. And I was sitting there. I was actually on the front row. I bet you my mouth was hanging open. I literally could not believe what I was hearing. And normally, I think if this had been before that moment with my mum, I think I would have just said, oh, this sounds a bit dodgy. I don't think you can do that, Steph. This is for other people, property people, business people. Yeah. This is for people who know what they're doing. This is for people with money. This is not for you. But I had that fire in my belly, and I thought, you know what? I think we could do this.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is a lot of the time, when people often sort of maybe don't know where to start. Like, they know they want to do something, but maybe I don't have all the information. But I think what you touched upon, and, you know, what is most of our journeys, is most of us start not knowing what we're doing. Like, no, that is very rarely you meet somebody with that, you know, serious plan of, here's how I'm going to get from A to B to C. Like, they've got every stepped out all along the way. We just know that, okay, we've got a want. So your want was, I want, you know, more flexibility to potentially spend time with family. I need to make money to allow me to do that. And that was your want. And it was like, okay, how can I make, you know, my work or my business, you know, be able to facilitate my want? I think the other thing is, if you don't know what you want to do, you're not just going to find out just, you know, by opening the window or looking out the door. You're going to have to go and do something. So you then went to a networking event where you were meeting people and talking to people that were really walking the walk and talking the talk and were out there and doing it. And then when you see that some of these people, you know, sometimes in the nicest way, you see that what somebody else has done and you think, well, you're just like me, or maybe I'm even maybe more qualified than you were saying you were when you started out. And it gives you that confidence that, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And I think the more you go to these events, you do realize that that person that's maybe got £1 million portfolio, an 8-figure portfolio, or even like a pipeline of 100 million, they started out just the same as you were, like, a year before, 5 years before. And you can use all of that to really inspire you and kind of see how it's viable, which I think is great, and great advice for anybody looking to get into the space. So then you went there, you were inspired, you kind of understood to a degree the business model a bit at this stage. Did you straight away set up a company? Like, what was your process of moving from an idea to an action?
OMG. As I say, Kaz, I spent the last, decades before that just letting life happen to me, basically, I feel, without that intention behind it. And I had this idea. I went to that thing. I found out the rest of the business model. I went on a one-day training program. I wanted to get the whole picture. I don't just like to just here and there. So I got the whole picture from this one-day training program I went on, and then I just started implementing it. I was at work full time, so before work, I had this list on my phone. It used to be called Wonder List, just so that every time I had some time, I would just look what needs to be done. I didn't have to remember what needs to be done. Everything was there, and I was setting up the company. I was calling landlords. I was looking at properties. I was on the fire, let me tell you. I don't think I've ever been as productive in my whole life. And the best thing about it from my perspective was that my sister, I just, when you've got the fire and you're on it, it's like in January, when you've set a New Year's resolution, and in January, that's what I was like. You're totally on it. And
you were charged up.
I spoke to Nikki, my sister, and she's usually very hesitant about things and very cautious, and so I didn't expect her to say that she wanted to come into it. I thought maybe she might want to do 1 or 2 properties, put her toe in, but she just said from the start, I'm all in, 50-50, and thank God for that, because I really would have struggled without her help.
Definitely. And I guess that leads me on to a question in regards to business partners slightly, because obviously this is your sister, so it's a slightly different question for maybe some people that are looking for a business partner. But you obviously mentioned you were still in full-time employment at the time. Was your sister in employment as well?
Yeah, it was lucky for me, because had she been in employment, she probably wouldn't have come into it. Because Nikki has been in very high-flying jobs where you get paid, double or triple the UK national average salary on a bonus, and that's besides her normal. But luckily for me, at that time, she'd taken a step away from it. She'd actually taken it was a sideways and downwards move, but through choice, to go and work in education and run a school, a private school. But she'd taken a break from that now and just wanted to rethink her life. She'd gone away to Jamaica for, I think it was 3 months. And it was lucky when she come back from that, she hadn't decided on her next move yet. And I was in there with this opportunity. I didn't think she would be thinking of it as something for her, but she just said, yeah, she's ready for this. And it was just the perfect timing.
Well, that's good. I mean, yeah, timing sometimes is key for any decision that we're going to make. Sometimes things, it's just timing. And that's why they always say that, okay, some people look at things and they say, oh, like you were lucky, or it's lucky that, shoot with the timing. But if you weren't as active as you were at the time, and maybe she could see the potential because of your impetus to actually go out there and get it, the chances that she would have, like you said, actually stepped away from another role or even more high paid position, probably a lot of that comes down to the potential she could see from what you were putting in yourself from day one. So how did you work out, obviously having a partner as well, particularly when you were still in full-time employment, how did you kind of manage to balance your time so she was able to see that, you were still putting in as much time? And also, did you have a plan for when you wanted to step away from your 9-to-5 or your full-time role, or what? How did you guys?
The lucky thing was that at the time I had just read the E-Myth. And so the E-Myth talks about how to systemize your business and how to make it so that you're not working in the business only, that you're actually running the business, so that eventually you can replace the jobs within the business with other people, and you still can work on the business.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we worked out all of the roles that would be required within our businesses and who was going to be responsible for each of the roles, because obviously at the beginning it was just the two of us. And so she was going to be finance and operations, stuff like that, and I was going to be initially I would be everything, finding tenants, getting landlords, overseeing anything that needs to be done locally, because at the time she was still in London and I was in Bristol, which was only an hour away from Newport, where we invest. So from the beginning it was very clear who was doing what, and I don't mind how long she takes her to do her part, as long as the results are there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking to say, oh, did you finish early so-and-so day, or did you put in 30 hours last week? All I'm looking to see is, are the things that are under her remit done? And she doesn't the same for me. I'm happy for her if it only takes her an hour, but she's delivering, and the same for me.
I think that's really good advice for someone that's going to go into having a partner, whether it's a rent-to-rent business or a buy-to-let business or anything, or a flip business, that effectively from an early stage creating accountability. Because, you know, the only time you really need to look at how many hours somebody's putting into the business is when the results aren't there, because then you've now got to find out why it's not happening. But when they are happening, it's just, you know, you're just looking at, okay, what else can we do? What are the next steps? So
go on.
I was just going to say, so your first deal, talk to me about your first deal, that first time that a landlord said yes. Like, how long did it take to get to your first deal? How did it feel?
Oh my God, it was incredible. The whole thing, I still feel such excitement when I think about it, because it was just like a roller coaster. Because, you know, I'm on this thing, I'm going to these, you know, I've been to the events, I found out the business, I've set up my business and all of that. I'm calling the agents, I'm booking the viewings on the weekends or in the evenings, usually on the weekends. And I'm coming over from Bristol to Newport on the weekends to have the viewings. So the first, and I'm so green because I don't know a lot of things, and I'm so nervous as well. So I had one viewing with, I really had to constantly be talking to myself and saying to myself, come on, girl, you could do this. You know, you've got, well, I had to do it because I felt like the alternative was not suitable for me.
Mm-hmm.
And also I just kept saying, other people do this, you can do it. But it was hard. It felt like, you know, walking in treacle. But I'd been to these viewings with a letting agent, and I'd upset the letting agent, not purposefully, forgetting why they're on the viewings, which is to make money from lettings. Mm-hmm. And I said something about we're going to manage the properties ourselves, but not saying that they're still going to get their commission, etc. So by the time she put me off, she didn't like tell me off or anything, but the atmosphere just changed from like normal to like minus 30. And I just thought, oh. And then I got out of her car, and we'd spent, you know, quite some time looking at all these different properties. She never answered to any of my messages, correspondence ever again. Anyway, I then had that decision to make, because all of the letting agents are in town, the same location, go into other letting agencies, because I'm now in Newport, which is where we want to do this rent-to-rent, and I'm going to go back to Bristol. So this is my opportunity now. But obviously I don't feel like going in any other shops, because I feel bad, because I've messed it up. And I already know that I messed it up, even though she didn't say that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just standing there outside this big letting agents, a big high street that if I said the name, you would all know. And they say don't go into the big chains because they're unlikely to go full rent to rent. So I thought, do you know what? You've got to go in. What's the worst that can happen? Everything. Had a word with myself. Then I went in. And what happens with me, you've got that talent or that way of being, you're just yourself the whole time. So for me, what happens when I feel really nervous, my voice goes up really high and I start sounding a different way. So I went in there and my voice comes out like a strangled cat. Have they got any HMOs? Have you got any HMOs? And she said, yes, but, you know, we don't do that. You know, she could already tell that I was doing something dodgy, or that she thought it was something dodgy. And I said, oh, okay, then. She said that her head office wouldn't allow it. And I had this brainwave to say, well, do you have any properties whereby it's on tenant find only? So your head office doesn't have to be involved. It's up to the landlord then to see. And then maybe after we've got some track record and you've seen some of the work we've done with landlords on tenant find only, you might want to introduce us to your fully managed, and then you'll still get paid, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, she then started shooting me to the big screens, showed me these 2 HMOs. And I don't know how I kept myself together. I felt like my heart was absolutely coming out of my chest. And I carried on the conversation and we arranged a viewing. And the following week we saw those 2 HMOs, and they were both owned by the same landlord, and we still got those properties, you know.
And that's it. And I think that in that story is a lot of, basically, I mean, it's not just rent to rent. We're talking rent to rate now, but it's the journey of a business person, that you had what could have been a setback to start with, just as, you know, like somewhere where you feel embarrassment, something that could have made you, it'd be easy to be like, oh, do you know what, it didn't go well, I need to go home. You could have made excuses to your sister to say, oh yeah, the woman wasn't nice, that's why it didn't work. But you know, you carried on, you took a step back, you took a setback as a learning curve to go forward. By the way, just as a caveat before I go on to the next bit, I'm not myself all the time. Like when I have to speak, like when I'm not comfortable speaking, I have to speak in public, I just decide to swear in a mirror and just literally be like, I can't go that bad. And then just go for it. Because once you like the same thing you said, once you're there, what's the worst that could happen? You could embarrass yourself. But would I be more embarrassed looking at myself in the mirror in that evening, knowing that I didn't give it my all? Or would I be more embarrassed, you know, in front of someone who doesn't really care, but I'm actually going to care about what I do? They're not really going to care about me the next day. So you kind of have to sort of kind of quantify it like that for me. But then I also think what's amazing as part of that story is the fact that, you know, you did exactly what you're supposed to do when, like, if you're a seasoned sales professional, deal with objection handling and find like that pressure point of, okay, this is our issue, it's head office, we don't deal with this, or it's financial, and find a way to turn a negative into a positive or a threat into an opportunity. So the threat of, oh, you're coming to take our business, we actually said, no, we can actually make you more money for somewhere that doesn't impact your business. And that's how you close the deal. And I think for those that are maybe in rent to rent right now and maybe haven't closed their first deal, you might have called 10, 20, 100 landlords and might not have got a deal. I think the lesson from Stephanie's story, and I can tell you 100% from my stories, is that you will get a lot of no's, but a lot of those no's you'll learn about yourself, you'll learn about your business, where you can position it and how it can be positioned going forward to make sure you have the best opportunity to close any deal going forward. So yeah. I think that's a great story, and I think a lot of people find a lot of inspiration, a lot of positives, because starting business is daunting. Like, you do hear a lot of no's. Your friends will tell you why things won't work. Like when I first wanted to get into property, and I was kind of talking about opening estate agents, and like some of my closest friends, they just say, oh, but there's so many already. Like, why would somebody come to you? And, you know, you've got to create that why yourself. You're not reinventing the wheel. You've got to create a why of why should somebody choose you above all the other options that are out there, which I think is great. So then, obviously, we roll forward. We're going to fast forward quite a lot. We're going to fast forward a few deals, some business, some landlords. When did you realize that, okay, based on what you've now learned, that you were able to help others within the rent-to-rent space and not just do deals yourself, but actually create, you know, the systems and write the book, Rent-to-Rent Success, that would allow others to kind of follow in your footsteps on your journey?
Yeah, it took a while. We could see that we were successful straight away because what we said was just add care. That was our differentiating factors. You can imagine us going in with our clipboards at the beginning when we were very green, saying, oh, we're going to change this, we're going to change that. Obviously, the landlords love that because most letting agents don't really care in that way. They haven't got time. They've got hundreds of properties, whereas we had, at that stage, we had 2. So every time we were going into a property, we were giving it a lot of attention.
100%.
And go on.
No, I was just saying, I'm just thinking back to my journey, and like, I'm thinking back to like just wanting to do everything, wanting to even just over deliver because you want everything to be in your head. Like that property might even be more your property than the landlord's. That's because that's your baby. That's your proof of concept. That shows that this can work.
Exactly. And we did all the before and afters, and we got so much confidence from it, because every step of the process for the first two, we were, yeah, this is great. Then we were worried. Then, yeah, this is great. Then we were worried. We got the refurbishment done. Yeah, this is great. And then, oh, what if nobody moves in? And then people moved in, and it's, oh, what do we do next? And so then once we did that cycle a few times, and we naturally put in processes, because I'm not a process person, but I have run so-called businesses in the past, but more like hobbies. They're more like hobby businesses sort of thing. From that experience, I saw that I was able to build up a fantastic network of people who wanted to buy the stuff. But what I didn't do was I didn't understand the process of creating processes, outsourcing your business, making it beyond you. So I'm like the hub of everything, which was too much. So this time, getting started in it, I knew that was the key. And I knew from day two, because we had 2 properties in the first deal, that I did not want to onboard anybody. I decided I'm going to onboard these 9 tenants, 5-bed and a 4-bed it was. And then we wrote out the process. So I've got Nikki, she's a more process detailed person. She worked for these big corporate companies in positions where she's creating these processes and also determining how other people need to follow the process. And she also went globally, teaching people what they should be implementing within their businesses, within the business. Anyway, so I told her what I did to onboard all these people too. Even things down to what it says in the ad, what I say in the messages. So we had message templates that our VA could use on spare room. Every step of the process was all documented. And we had this process. And once that was in place, we then got a VA straight away, because this is what I say to people. You can use a virtual assistant right from the start, because you're only paying them for the hours that they're working, and that's affordable within this kind of business. So we had Dawn, her name was, and she was she was British, although you can find much cheaper alternatives in the Philippines. And she just wanted to work a few hours a week, so it suited her to a T, and it suited us, and that worked phenomenally until a few years in. I think I want to say actually 2 years in, we hired somebody full-time locally, assistant property manager, Luke, and it was his very first job. He was 18, he's now 21, 22. He's been phenomenal in our business, doing the day-to-day of running that business. And that's what gave us the time and the ideas. I'm hyper these days. Like, I'm always looking for something. What's the next opportunity? What can next I be doing? So once that day-to-day was off of my plate, I was then, as you can imagine, you get the saying, Cassie, I'm sure, that your inbox is blowing up with people saying, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do that part? How do you get started? And all of that. And so we were creating all of these materials. Well, I was creating all of these videos and bad videos, because I was kind of still nervous on camera. I was very shrieky, excuse me. And I was creating all these videos, blog posts and all of that. And people were saying, how do you do it? But I felt that we couldn't charge for anything like that, because we were not, I don't know, I didn't want to raise my hand to say we're the experts on this, because I felt like we hadn't been doing it for long enough.
Okay, I mean, I think there's just so much in there that, you know, there is always, as much as a lot of the time we maybe don't know, like, knowing everything doesn't mean that you don't have a lot of value to a lot of people. And I think that's something that if I'm honest, like, because I still think like there's so much I want to do. And I'm like you, that once you kind of have an idea that one business works, you become the mad professor, and you've got a new idea every day, and everything sounds like a great idea, and you want to do everything. But I think sometimes, like, being able to say, actually, like, you know, from conversations, you really do know a lot, and you've learned a lot, and you've shown that with the processes that you showed that you put in place from an early stage. And even though sometimes maybe from outwardly you say, okay, you know, we're not the experts in rent to rent right now, but because of your combined years experience between you and your sister, the processes that you were able to put in place and understand and outline to individuals that wanted to do it may be way more succinct and sort of digestible to somebody that wants to get into the business. Because I did rent to rent for years, but if I had to sit down and explain it to somebody, I'm like the opposite, or not so much now, but earlier I was the opposite, and where I just did everything. It was just all in my head. And the idea of me kind of being able to kind of compartmentalize those processes, even if I did it for years long, I wouldn't have been able to do it like as efficiently as you've done. I think just that if you're good at training, then, and you're good at being able to do that and provide a manual, then that's great. And you should be able to do that at whatever stage you feel comfortable, and those that you're teaching feel like they get value from, which is great. So just for those that maybe are watching this later on, either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music, where is the Rent Success book available from if somebody wanted to pick that up?
Yeah, I've always got it on my desk here.
Product placement and marketing. We love that.
It's on Amazon, and it's on Amazon, and if anybody wants it, they can get it.
And then am I right in saying, away from the book, you have a course for more kind of, if somebody wants further support?
Yeah, that's right. I think, well, we've got the Rent to Rent Kickstarter mentorship program. It's a 3-month in-depth program. How I've done it, really, the book is a great way for anybody who doesn't want to invest in the course, or can't afford to invest in the course, or just wants to DIY for whatever reason. Then the book is fantastic. It's less than £10. Some people can get it free, because if you're on Audible, if you're not on Audible, you can get the Audible version free if you go to renttorentsuccess.com/audible, because Audible will give you a 30-day free trial. You just need to remember to cancel, and during that time, obviously, you can listen to the book, and you get the book free within that. So that's a great way, because what's in the book is our 6-step rent-to-rent success system. And so if people want it deeper and they want the step-by-step, here's the template you need for this, here's how we did that, here's an example of this, here's the copy and paste, here's the contrast, here's the letters, here's the text for an offer, then that's in the Rent-to-Rent Kickstarter mentorship program. And the best way for people to see if it's really for them is to get the free masterclass, which is at renttorentsuccess.com/KAZ. And if you go there, you'll be able to find, yeah, it is. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. So then they'll be able to get the free masterclass and guide. And once they've got the free masterclass and guide, they can also book a call to speak with me if they've got any questions.
Great stuff, great stuff. So I think for those that are looking to maybe embark on your journey, it's always good if you're interested in something, and look, you can dip your toe in the water for free. That often kind of speaks to the credibility, because you can decide if it's right for you. There's loads of different types of learners, and you can see that, look, based on how you know that you learn, if this is going to work for you. And I think that's the other side of it. You know, of any type of education, the onus is just as much on the teacher as it is on the student. You have to want to learn. You have to know that the type and the way it's being delivered is going to work for you. But I definitely would recommend, I've already seen a few people, like the Property Mum and somebody else, that's saying they're going to go and pick up the book. So I'm sure you're going to get a couple of calls coming through, you know, in the next couple of days, of people trying to connect with you. Today, I think we've covered a lot of kind of your story, and how you've got into rent to rent, and sort of just what your process was, and how, and also, to be fair, we've covered some of it, because you've gone and done a lot more beyond rent to rent and in other spaces beyond that. I think now we're kind of not post COVID, but I've started to do some of the in-person interviews. I think I would really like to speak to you more just on some specifics, 'cause I know a lot of people, we've kind of spoken today with things that would help people that are thinking of starting, but there's a lot of people that are kind of that have started and have sort of like, you know, more specific questions, or just even to try and understand where they're at. So I think it'll be good to actually have a conversation with you at some point. And actually, it's always good to speak in person anyway. So hopefully we can manage to make the diaries match. I know you're a very, very busy woman. Because I was having a look, like questions just like, you know, how do you keep up to date with the legislation? because it's constantly changing within the space in you know in the private rental sector. And just sort of more specifics like that. Do you think you'd be up for having a chat in regards to sort of more rent-to-rent specific stuff?
Yeah, I love doing that, especially for people who are already doing it, because I see so many people who are already doing it, and they're it's like headless chicken, because this is happening, that's happening, this is happening, that is happening. And so I just really love to show people, and it's better at the start, but you can do it at any point. It's just when you set it up so it's just on these nice little tracks, and it's just going along. It's really a smooth journey then. So we didn't really have to have that headless chicken part, because we just put these simple systems in place that made it, you've done this now, that made it so easy to outsource. And then have that time. That's what we want, basically. We want to have the time back, but we also want to have the cash flow. And what I love is having the control, because I know how my business is being run. It's not dependent on what some letting agent does, or some new member of staff comes in and then everything goes to... yeah.
There's standardization, there's processes, and you can also sort of quickly highlight those bottlenecks or those issues if there were going to be anything, because you kind of set your standards out from the jump, which is great. And I think in biz we call it our foundations. We've made sure that we've got sturdy foundations to build upon for whatever it is we want to do in the future, which is always great. So I think, as I'm still in a random car park, I'm gonna wrap up here. However, we're going to get Stephanie back very soon. You've heard it here. And if she doesn't come on, I'm just, going to get everybody to message you and flood your DMs. But again, just for those, again, where can they find you? What's your Instagram handles, of other locations? Where can people find you?
Yeah, thanks so much, Cassie. It's been amazing to be on. I always love chatting with you. And so where can people find me? So to see the property business that we got, the HMO management business, it's hmoheaven.co.uk. To see the rent-to-rent success and get the free guide, etc., it's rent-to-rentsuccess.com. And for any women over 40 who are interested in blowing up their life and having a free Ignite Your Spark call with me, that's blowupyourlife.com.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate you taking your time out on the Sunday. We got here in the end, despite the technical issues. Then this is another example of hard work pays off. We could have gave up on the first go. We could have gave up on the second go and the third. We got there on the fourth. And that's just what everyone's going to go and do with their rent-to-rent deals. They're going to go and secure a new deal on the fourth call on Monday morning.
Absolutely. That's
all right, then.
Thanks.
You take care. See ya. Bye.
See ya. Bye.